Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
Ni
to
hao.
our welcome to our high school, and which I won't officially say because we try to keep it private. But welcome
Of
to our high
course.
school and our Latin class. Say hello, everybody. Say hello in Latin, everyone. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahara, for coming to our class through Zoom and talking to our
Sure.
students.
Sure.
So a little background, of course, is that 50 of our students went to Bowers Museum back in October, along with our
Mhm.
principal and a few of our teachers, to look at the terracotta warriors and afterwards take a look at the rest of the museum and do comparative studies really between Roman ancient history and ancient Chinese culture. So that was the
Mhm.
main thrust of the visit. And
Mhm.
and then they were hoping that at some point you'd be able to do a Q&A. So thank you so much for taking your time today to do that.
Yes, of course. Of course. I'm very happy to do this. I'm glad that your class is interested in history.
I mean, as the president and CEO of Bowers Museum, I know you're super busy, so thank you so much. And so our first question for you, Sterling. So this is our Apple class here with us today. So this is our AP Latin students.
Okay.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Salwe. Uh,
So,
After seeing the terracotta warriors and the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, I was reminded of the Egyptian pyramids and the shared idea that one's belongings might follow them into the next world. For Egypt, I know that this trend started to dissipate with the arrival of Christianity and then later Islam. But I'm wondering, did any similar event lead to like a phase out of this idea later on the line in China? Or did this practice remain widespread in the tombs of Chinese aristocratic figures and emperors?
well, um, I want to start off by saying that I'm not a China history expert. I have a lot of experience with uh, a lot of educational programs related to that. But the one thing I would say is that the emperors who had a supposed divine right to rule were in place until the early 20th century.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think that a lot of the religious practices persisted until very recently. And of course, as we know, the Chinese Communist Party eventually took over, and that's a government that does not support in many ways, older religions and so on. So anyway, so there's so my feeling is that it's it's a fairly modern change, but you know, uh, I think the if you're citing the changes in Egypt from the previous beliefs and then the changes to Islam, you can actually see that wave of Reformation changes and newer religions swirl around the world as people travel around the world. And if you look at the way the various religions moved in and out of China, they had a lot to do with the trade routes.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think that the changes in Chinese religious practices will often reflect how they interact with other countries, other worlds. Um, and the introduction of Christianity in the Renaissance period, and just after that during the Reformation, that started changing aspects of East Asia as well. So I would say I would say that your question is a huge question.
Yeah, I guess.
But I would say just to summarize, I would say by and large, I would say that the biggest changes, the biggest shift from viewing the emperor as a divine being, which is you know um, part of the point of being an emperor, that shifted when the last emperor Puyi stepped off the throne,
Okay,
and in the 20th century. So it's a fairly late change, I would say.
thank you.
I'm going to ask
Yeah, you're
Sterling
welcome.
a question here. What did you like most in the Terracotta Warrior exhibit?
I just thought it was really amazing how they had so many of them. And so even though at the museum, I believe there was only like a small fragment of, or like a small percentage of them. I don't know how many of the total, but it wasn't all of them, obviously. There was only a few full-size warriors on display. And I thought it was really amazing the level of detail that they put into it. It's like this obviously was a project that they spent many years on. Like they obviously like it was not like a oh it's a metaphor, it's symbolizing his greatness. No, he needs these guards in the afterlife. We have to make these like perfect molds of this. And
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
seeing something about how each of them has like different ear shapes and different like
Hmm.
nose shapes, which proves that they're not all just like made from a mold. These were like they brought in craftsmen from like all over, and this was like a decades long project to like make
Hmm.
sure the emperor is protected in a very literal sense. And I thought that that was very interesting from like a perspective of today. Like nobody's like, okay, we need to get a bunch of statues for grandma's grave for the funeral. And so
Hmm.
the way that they would do that, or even like, I don't know, like George H.W. Bush, like our leaders, even, like we don't really think about it that way anymore, but they really did.
Yeah, and in fact, I just want to say that the number of people that they think worked on the tomb, um, which numbered in several 100,000 people, was actually larger than any city in the world at the time.
The number of people that worked on it,
Yeah,
wow. And how long
yeah,
did it
they
take?
estimate uh, a couple decades, but and of course he only ruled for a handful of years as well. So, but the point is that the number of people he employed on this project outnumbered almost any city in the world.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
that's why the level of detail was so good. Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next person. You can applaud him. They're all like politely applauding. Applaud, it's okay.
Mhm.
Oh, that was too good. You can't follow up. Come on, you can. Yes, sure. She was. They have prepared questions for you now. They're being all shy about it.
Okay.
Um, First and foremost, I wanted to mention how I've been quite interested in archaeology and the archaeological process and the differences it has between unprofessional, shall we say, treasure hunting.
Mhm. Oh, well, okay. So uh, treasure hunting and uh, is actually an essential part of archaeology. Um, so so the I mean, this is just a situation. It's not a it's it's not my opinion on it, but um, the the treasure hunters and the people who look for things buried in the ground will often discover important artifacts before the archaeologists. And um, in some of the presentations that we gave at the museum that you would have seen, um, some of it was discovered because the farmers were selling material from the ground. So there was a very early city that we presented, and there were jade pieces that were being sold. So they were kind of treasure hunters in the sense that they found this stuff in the ground, but they were the farmers and they farmed that land, but they would sell all this jade. And after a while, people thought, "Wow, what's all this jade coming out of the ground? Like it makes no sense." And then they realized that it was a huge archaeological site. Um, and so and that's happened across the ages where treasure hunters would be the first people to rediscover things, and then it would trigger a whole process. So I think that again, treasure hunting isn't always very good, but it does lead to new discoveries.
Um, Speaking of the process, could you elaborate a little more on the intricacies of navigating around Chinese bureaucracy and the whole excavation of the terracotta warriors site and everything as a whole?
Sure.
Because we were taught in class by Mr. Guzman, um, several aspects of the archaeological process of excavating Pompeii and the 50-year journey that it has went through. And I want to know the differences and similarities between that and the Bowers Museum
Sure.
concept.
So, so Pompeii preceded the Xi'an excavation by a couple hundred years, and so the difference is that with Pompeii, um, it was almost Pompeii uh, was almost like creating a tourist venue, because it became so popular in people's imaginations that I think Herculaneum, preceded Pompeii, but which is not far away from Pompeii. Um, but that became an essential part of the grand tour, and with the discovery in China of the Xi'an site, this happened 50 years ago, 51 years ago, and it sort of happened by accident, um, by a farmer who discovered a warrior, and at first the farmer thought that it was a ghost because if you see an image of someone's face in the ground, what would you think,
Dead
and
body.
say it again.
I would assume it's like a dead body.
Yeah, it was and actually that's the interesting thing. This isn't a question you asked, but the interesting thing about Chen Huangdi's tomb is that nothing like it preceded it, and nothing like it followed it. So it was really unique. So to find these life-size figures was like, you know, unheard of. And so when the farmer discovered this, uh, somehow it trickled, the information sort of got to a local official, and I think, at the time, um, it was sort of the back end of the Cultural Revolution, so it was kind of a very difficult time to get yourself involved in these larger discussions if you're an official or if you're a farmer. So I can imagine that people for the first period of time, a few years, where people were very weary about what they had discovered. They had no idea. They had no idea what the scale was. They didn't know what they were looking at initially, and um, and but then what happened was the bureaucracy took over, and I think it was in the interest of the government at the time to excavate the site because when they figured out that this was probably the tomb of the first emperor of China. Um, I mean, it's if you think about it, now we see it as kind of normal, but at the time, you can imagine I mean, how totally earth-shattering the discovery was.
For
It
sure, if they just like had discovered the tomb of Augustus, if they had just newly discovered it, that'd be like,
Yeah,
yeah, amazing.
and well, the other thing is that the other thing that's really interesting about this tomb, and again, it's what kind of like um, changed everything, was that in archaeology you'll often find fragments of things, and then you have to extrapolate, what you see shards of pottery, and you have to figure out, well, what could this look like, and then how does it fit into the bigger context. Well, with this discovery, you're seeing a one-to-one replica, one-to-one replica of his court, which is mind-boggling. Like, you're not just seeing a depiction or a drawing or anything. You're almost seeing his court. They had animal trainers and acrobats and soldiers and animals and chariots and things. So it's a kind of amazing that you're actually seeing what his court looked like at the time. So I think because of that, um, the government was very interested in pursuing this. So when you're talking about, like, how is a bureaucracy involved? Now, Italy wasn't centralized in the same way, right? So um, and because it was done, because Pompeii was a couple hundred years before that, um, things were, they had archaeologists from all over the world. It was more decentralized. There was all kinds of, kind of things going on. Uh, whereas this was very organized by the government of China, and they were able to dedicate resources. So in a very short amount of time, so between like 1974 and like the 80s, they were able to uncover, several thousand soldiers and put them together. Because remember, the other thing is these soldiers were like all broken up, right? Because over the years, all the soil and everything just started to weigh all this stuff down. And so all of this terracotta, which by the way, I mean, it's, terracotta is made of earth and there's earth on it. So it's like the fact that the earth didn't, merge with the terracotta is kind of interesting and miraculous. And so they had to put it all together. So, these soldiers, which I have, a little replica of, they didn't come out like this. They were completely, in thousands of pieces each. So they had to like put them together as a puzzle. So they were able to, the government was able to have, hundreds and hundreds of these people work on this project. And so they were able to make an enormous amount of progress in the first few years.
Sorry, I think my time's up.
Oh,
Thank you so
okay.
much.
Well, at the end, you can throw a question out.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, of course.
All right, next person, Isaac. Just want to make sure that a couple of kids are able to ask your questions.
Okay.
Hi, good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Going to Bowers and seeing all those terracotta warriors, actually kind of a more simpler question, I guess. And my question was, they were buried in the earth under terracotta, right? They're like shattered, presumably. How did they put them back together, and what did they use, and how long did it take to put those back together?
Well, in the first instance, it probably around 10 years to put together the first grouping.
Sure.
But I think and it's it's like the hardest puzzle in the world, right? Because and they're all intermingled, so they have to get the heads and the legs and everything and the bodies put together. But all you can say is very carefully, because if you go there, you'll see at the back end of the site there is an area that looks like a hospital ward, and it has all these bodies in the hospital ward, but it's actually soldiers, and it's actually like terracotta people. So but yeah, they put them together. The other thing is it's the structure of the sculpture that's important. So they have horses and they have people and animals and so on. And so one of the things, like for example, with the horse is they have to put it together in such a way that it doesn't collapse. So there's that to bear in mind, that these structures have to stand up and they have to be able to hold their own weight. So they have to repair them. But the techniques have changed over the years, because in the past you would sort of restore things, right? Restore means bring it back to its original state.
Right.
Now we conserve things. So now we make it so that you can either undo it or where the repairs are.
Awesome.
So,
Well, thanks so much. That was a great answer. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So I know what's going on. So that was the Apple class, the AP Latin class, and then the 3 honors classes coming in. So if you want
Okay.
like a quick 5-minute break, and then if you have like another 10 minutes so some of their questions, I don't know how much time you have. So
Sure. Oh no. I have till 10.
okay.
Okay.
Welcome to our 3 honors class, Dr. O'Hara. Everybody
Ni hao,
say
ni hao, ni hao.
everyone say hello, Dr. O'Hara. And let's do it the Latin way. Say sawe. What does sawe mean,
Sawante.
everybody? Oh, he knows. But like actually, what does it mean? Be well. See, they know that. It's a
Yeah.
command.
Salvete,
Did I teach
y'all.
you that, or do you know that? Did you know that?
I knew that.
You did?
Salvete?
Yeah.
Salvete? Yeah.
How'd you learn that from?
Because I looked it up on Google.
Oh, very good. Of course you did. Okay, first student, Tyler, come on down.
Morning.
Morning. So yeah, my main question is like there's like the main theory that like every individual statue is actually like based on like a real unique like soldier. And I'm just wondering like because I kind of remember like that might not actually have like enough basis to be true. Cause so, like is there like do like the statues like overlap in similarities enough to like debunk that theory, or like is there like enough evidence to suggest that they actually are all based on real soldiers?
So if you think about the process, so okay, if you look at the faces, they're all different. Okay, and you know, human beings are very good at recognizing what is real and fake, right? So so when you look at a lot of the faces, and we put all the faces, we had images of at least several hundred. We put them all out there in kind of like a slideshow, and you can swear that you know some of these people. Like they look like people you know? And so that's one thing to tell you as a human that you figured out, I mean that you believe these are based on people. They kind of have to be based on people because you can't do it that well, you know, like because they have quirky features. You can't just like I don't think you could just make it up, you know, like the way the eyes or, you know, there's just aspects of it that are very realistic. You don't encounter many of the soldiers that have these faces that you're like, okay, that's not real, you know, like, okay, like these soldiers here, okay, they don't look real, right? But if you look at the faces of the real soldiers, they are really, really accurate. Now, the bodies were all done in a mold, so the bodies would be kind of you know, a process, but the faces, the heads were totally different. So that's why we think they used models because yeah, you couldn't just make it up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know the other thing is the soldiers were done for a religious purpose, right? It was that he needed soldiers in the afterlife. And so there was kind of this pressure to make them real because these were real soldiers. You know, we don't know because you know it wasn't written down, but the you would imagine if they really believed they needed these soldiers to be in the afterlife, you might copy real soldiers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah. And there's more to talk about with the afterlife, just to let you know. But we can go on that we can go on that later. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who else had their, that was good. That was good. Well done. Um, next person, is your hand? Was it Nathan? Nathan, come on.
Hello, nice to meet you. So
Good
my
morning.
first question was my question was I know that silk was prevalent in the Chinese, like they traded away a lot of those.
Yeah.
I want to ask if there's like anything they got in return from the Romans, any like architectural influences or materials to build.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some theories on that and not so much the Romans, but the very Eastern Greek Empire. You know, the Greek Empire that was in Afghanistan. So
The Bactrian,
so the
Bactrian Empire, yeah.
yeah. So the feeling is that okay, so here's the thing, right? There's no one wrote it down. There's no like explicit sort of connection. But think about this, right? If Qin Shi Huang did all this stuff, right, and had you know bronze casting and so on, and used technology that was similar to what the Greeks and the Romans were using, and it appeared suddenly, right? Because before him, they didn't do this, and after him, they didn't do this. Okay, okay. So that's one peculiarity of the situation. Okay, and it just so happens that the same technology was used by the Greeks and the Romans. So Okay. All right, there's that, right? And then you have to you understand that Qin Shi Huangdi came from the Qin family that was kind of more northern, and they were horse people. So you can imagine that, being on a horse, means you can travel and do trade, right? And so, we know that, it's not that far away. It's far, but it's not that far away to get from like the Chin area all the way over to the part of Central Asia, where the Greeks and were there. So it's like, so you kind of have to just say that it's a rational conclusion that there must be some connection, right? Because it just can't appear out of nowhere, disappear. It seems so unlikely, So it's unlikely that the technology that coexisted appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared out of, it's like, so even though archaeologists like to see like solid connections, this is logical, and explains why the first emperor of China can all of a sudden have all this stuff, this technology, and all of a sudden, after him it disappeared again. So we don't know specifically, but we suspect that they did because it's a very logical explanation. That's the best I can say.
I have a question for you, Nathan. What did you really like about the world of terracotta warriors?
I like the, I can't remember exactly, but it was like a small like sculpture with like people carrying wagons, like horse.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh, the one in the middle?
yeah, the one in the middle.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a 3/4 size replica of the real thing, right, John? So that was actually
Yeah, half size. Yeah.
half size. But in the actual tomb, it was full size?
No, it was
No,
that size.
really,
It was that
was that
size.
size.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was that size.
oh
Yeah, that's a
wow.
1-to-1. And that's one of the few replicas, but that's a 1-to-1. And it was squashed, but they restored it. But it's all made of bronze, which is incredibly unusual. And again, this connection with the Greek Empire, right? That's kind of an interesting sort of discussion because they use technology that was similar. And that, going back to the afterlife question, that was the chariot that took his soul to the afterlife. Yeah, but actually, the funny thing is that the soldiers were facing his enemy, and the chariot was going the opposite direction. They were like, it was like his getaway vehicle.
I think that's.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Who has another question? That was good. Who wants to go next? Okay, here you are. Chloe, what do you have so far?
Well, I was just interested in how you acquired the terracotta warriors because they're pretty hard to.
Sure. Well, it depends on who you know, right? So we had our chief curator was an archaeologist originally from Beijing. Actually, no, he's from Shandong province, so he's actually from the north, but he was trained at Beijing University, and so his classmates were other archaeologists and leaders throughout the museum system, and so that helped. And then the other thing that helped was that we did these exhibitions before, and so we knew some of the senior people over many years. So part of it is trust. And we were one of the first museums to do terracotta warriors in the early 2000s. So, with that track record, it was all about trusting the partners because the terracotta warriors are the most fragile things you can imagine. So that's where that worked. But the other thing was that the exhibition was bigger than terracotta warriors. So just to expand your question or the answer to your question, the exhibition was 5 museums. And that's really unusual because if you go to museums in China, for example, you just see one site and one museum. That's it, right? So if it's, if it's the Qin Huangdi Mausoleum, that's all you're seeing, right? But we had material that went back another 2,000 years from different sites, from different museums.
And by the way, I
So
didn't think that that was advertised enough at Bowers. I was saying like it's not clear to people that it's
yeah,
different from the usual terracotta warriors. I'm like a world of terracotta warriors for 2000 BC. It should. I
yeah,
just feel like it should have
yeah.
stood
No,
out more.
yeah, it was a big debate on our side because, how do you communicate in like, less than 5 seconds?
Hmm.
Everything that people need to know. Um, and 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 it's kind of hard to say because we had material that was like 4,500 years old, so it was before the any dynasty in China, right? So the earliest dynasty we think is Shang Dynasty. It was before that even. So it's like it was but we had to call in special favors. So um, the earliest carving of a horse in China was the first thing you saw, and that was 4,500 years old. And even the director of the museum uh, didn't realize that it was it was in the exhibition. So we knew enough people. We knew enough people. But it's basically, yeah, you have to know them. You have to know that they have to know that you're an expert, and then they have to be able to trust you to take care of their objects. So, that's the nature of our business.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
wait,
thank you.
don't leave yet. What was your favorite object?
Probably the Terracotta Warriors. I also like
Oh, yes.
seeing like I think there's like bowls and
Hmm.
different like stuff that they use. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you notice that the bowls and stuff had like little
Yeah, it's
animal
very
things?
it's very like intricate.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing how they did that.
Did you
with,
see
like,
the
metal.
animal things with like feet and
Oh yeah,
things?
yeah.
That was fun.
That was really
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you could all make it because it means you don't have to go to China for it.
Well, who can afford to do that? Not you, not me. You can.
No, I
They send
do
you
what
all
I'm
the
told.
time.
I do what I'm told.
I did want to ask you about the duck. Did anybody remember the duck? Kind of, sort
I
of.
think it was a goose. I think it was a
Was it
goose.
good? All
It
right,
was a
all right.
duck-like goose. It was a goose-like duck. Yeah.
That was part of the room with the musicians.
Yes.
So I'm saying
So
this
they would
for the
play the
benefit of
flute.
the kids too.
They would
Yeah,
play the flute, and the animals would dance.
and they had the zither in that room.
Mm. I guess I don't
So
recall that, but
this was a
I take your word for it
conversation.
since you notice these things.
This is a conversation with Anthony Barbieri.
Hmm.
That he remembered that there were relics of the two terracottas that were actually somehow the fragments of them. It looked like one was holding what would be the position and stuff. But
Yeah, a musical instrument on their lap
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, and it seemed like like a zither. And I was telling the kids, what's interesting to me about that room with the duck or goose is that it represents how they view music. Ideally. So it's like a peaceful place by the stream with whatever other things and swimming creatures. So it's part of nature. So music was part of nature.
My guess is actually he it was a conglomerate of an amalgamation of a bunch of, I mean, it was like a whole grouping of lots of animals in a room.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think it was a peaceful little stream. I think
I see what you're saying. Okay,
it was probably a palace. It was probably in a palace with the animals dancing.
Oh,
He had acrobats. He had entertainers.
But like in that room though, like each little chamber, right?
Oh yeah, chamber. But
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think that you know, they may have hung out in the stream because they had to eat and, you know, do their thing. But I think when the emperor was entertained, I think he was in his palace.
Oh, certainly. Sure.
Yeah.
I guess I was
Yeah.
thinking in terms of like the 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 burial rooms, right? Like each
Yeah.
room would
Yeah.
represent like maybe a thought or what, you know, I'm
Yeah.
thinking like each one
Yeah.
was a thought, like an ideal.
Or or a barrack or yeah, I don't know. Or maybe they were all in a the green room being preparing to be on stage.
Maybe, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah. I don't
I was
know.
thinking
I don't
like, you
know.
know, the room with the acrobats, for instance.
Yeah.
Like what was that all about? I see what you're saying. Like they were just being prepped and they're about to be moved to this like the grand palace in the sky, right?
It did seem that way. Everyone was in formation. You know, all the court, there was like some rooms that were more court officials, the other rooms were more soldiers, the other rooms were, you know, acrobats and animals and stuff. And I think they were all like in their barracks.
I like
They
that
were all
idea.
in there in formation, waiting to be called up for
Understood.
the next, whim of the emperor.
Do you remember what Anthony was saying, what Tony was saying about the duck? Is that the way that it was made was
Yep. Very Greek.
very Greek. Are y'all listening? It was very Greek. So it's not at all like how the Chinese during that time were making those kinds of sculptures. So
Before or after?
Before or after, yeah, even before and after. It only happened in that little moment in time. So anything about like influences, it you can't get away from the fact that ideas are passed from one culture to another somehow in a trade at some point. You know, the ideas were passed, so you can't just say that they suddenly came up with this idea on their own.
It's actually impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people can expand an idea, people can make it better, people can make the technology better, just like the Romans made the Colosseum bigger and with concrete and stuff, right? But like all the ideas of the architecture, they got from the Greeks, and the Greeks themselves got it from somewhere else and such. So yeah.
Well, and look at the era that this happened. So this was 221 BCE. So it was kind of an interesting, period of time, right? It's fairly late, with regards to the Greeks but it's, kind of in an interesting kind of zone for the Romans. And, it's kind of that,
Yeah,
to me, I just think there's a lot of movement happening at that time.
absolutely. So 221 BC, y'all looking at the timeline here? Around 221 BC, we're still talking the Punic War. Punic Wars were happening. So a lot of movement there. And I mean, at that point in time, Alexander had already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already the Hellenistic era.
Yep. And the Hellenistic era is more realistic, right? Like it was, you had depictions of people that were less idealistic, right? They had you could see they had like, tummies and flab and stuff. Like there was something about the Hellenistic that was more, realistic. And then you see in the Chinese stuff, it's very realistic. So it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that emperor there. That emperor that you have.
So this is Qin Shi Huang. Now, obviously they don't know what he looked like because you weren't able to see him, right? I mean, it was one of those things at the
No,
time.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
you weren't. Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, the emperor wasn't. You couldn't meet the emperor. But so this is just like probably a depiction of him in a painting. 1,000 years afterwards.
Oh my gosh! So they didn't have any paintings of the emperor at the time, not even painting.
No.
I did not realize that because, like in Rome and Greece, they're like all about depicting themselves, like in paintings and sculptures and such. Wow.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know what he looked like. I mean, they describe the people who described, his personality and stuff. So they kind of like, figured he might look like this, but yeah.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of the paintings and depictions were much later. I mean, there may have been stuff done at the time, but they don't survive, and I don't think we.
Fascinating. I did not know that. Well, today I learned. Do you know the origin of the word terracotta?
Earth and cooked.
But terracotta, right? Italian, yeah.
Terra
Kids, what is
cuisine.
what is it in Latin? Come on, cooked earth. Come on, tell me. Terracotta, terracotta. Yeah, that's cooked earth. So it became terracotta Italian, and then we have terre cuite French, right? Terre cuite.
Terre cuite.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but the Latin term remained.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And it's so cross-cultural. The Latin term remained, and it's still applied to like the terracotta, Chinese warriors and such.
Yeah, terracotta warriors, exactly.
It's really cool. Well, thank you so much. I know you gotta go. It's 10 o'clock. The museum's gonna open.
Oh my gosh, it is 10. You're right. Yes.
Everybody say thank you so much, Dr. O'Hara. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. And have a wonderful day at the museum. And it's I do miss the terracotta warriors, but but you guys have a new fabulous exhibit. How long is the textile, the world of the textile?
Till mid-April. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might
So that's
see.
that also goes back 2,000 years. So, that's another interesting connection, closer to the Greeks, actually, right? So,
I don't know. Is your museum prepared for another 50 of my kids to come in April?
sure,
Maybe.
sure.
What do you guys
We have lots
think?
of guards. We have lots of guards.
Yeah. Well, my peeps, my students, they said were so well behaved. They were shocked that all 50 of my kids were so well behaved. They didn't think it could happen, But you guys, well done. Everybody commented on it. But
I would expect no different from your perfectly organized class.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's give a round of applause, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
What's the goodbye? Awe? Is it Awe?
It is. Everybody say goodbye. Wale to one person. Walete to everybody.
Walete. Yeah. Okay.
Wale.
Bye-bye.